The most powerful football federation on earth just placed Lionel Messi's name inside a legal document and aimed it directly at FIFA. Brazil won their match, 3-0. Vinicius Junior scored twice. By every conventional measure, Tuesday night in Miami was a good night for the Seleção. So understand what it means that the Brazilian Football Confederation did not celebrate. Instead, they drafted a formal complaint, had it reviewed by legal counsel, signed it at the highest level, and sent it directly to Gianni Infantino's office. Because Brazil are not simply angry, they are building a case. A structured, evidenced, strategically assembled case, and at the center of that case sits a name that nobody expected to find there. Let's go back to the 21st minute. Miami Stadium. A humid Florida evening, the stands packed with yellow and green, with tartan, with the noise of a tournament that was sold to the world as the most inclusive and expansive World Cup in history. Brazil versus Scotland. A match Brazil were already controlling, already winning, already making look routine. Vinicius Junior, electric and relentless, the most dangerous forward at this entire tournament, surged onto a loose ball in the Scottish half. He tracked down Jack Hendry, won the physical contest, and finished with the clinical precision that has made elite defenders across Europe lose sleep for years. The net moved. The crowd erupted. Mexican referee César Ramos raised his arm toward the center circle and pointed. Goal. Then his earpiece crackled. The VAR review center had flagged the build-up. Ramos walked to the pitch-side monitor. He stood there. He watched the footage. He reversed his own call. Vinicius's challenge on Hendry was deemed an illegal foul before he ever reached the ball. The goal was gone. On the touchline, Carlo Ancelotti, 5 Champions League titles, the most decorated manager in the history of club football, turned away from the pitch and stared at the ground. His coaching staff erupted around him. Brazil's players converged on the referee in a wave of controlled fury that took several long minutes to dissolve. But here's what nobody is talking about. The disallowed goal is not the real story. The real story is the specific legal argument the CBF constructed around it, and the deliberate, calculated choice they made about whose name to place at the very center of that argument. FIFA's own VAR protocol at this World Cup operates on a clearly defined threshold. VAR is not designed to review every tight call, every marginal contact, every moment where opinion could reasonably divide. This tournament made a specific promise about how technology would be used. VAR is authorized to intervene only when a clear and obvious error has been committed by the on-field referee, not a borderline judgment, not a matter of interpretation, a clear and obvious error. That standard exists precisely to protect the integrity and flow of the match and to ensure that technology serves football rather than paralyzes it. The CBF's letter to Infantino argues, in precise, measured legal language, that the contact between Vinicius and Hendry did not come remotely close to meeting that threshold, that Ramos made the correct initial decision, that VAR should never have been activated. The disallowed goal against Scotland, the letter states directly, does not appear aligned with the philosophy adopted in this competition. That phrase, the philosophy adopted in this competition, is not incidental wording. It is the door through which Brazil walks their most calculated and extraordinary argument. Because to prove inconsistency, you need a comparison. And Brazil did not choose a minor example from a match between 2 smaller nations. They chose Argentina. They chose Messi. They chose the most watched, most analyzed, most politically charged rivalry in the history of world football. A rivalry that needs no introduction in any language on any continent. In Argentina's second group fixture against Austria, CBF officials identified a moment they argue mirrors precisely what happened in Miami. Midfielder Alexis McAllister challenged Austria's Xaver Schlager in the build-up to a Messi goal. The nature of that contact, the CBF formally contends, was directly comparable to what Vinicius did on Hendry. No foul was given, no VAR review was initiated, the goal counted. Messi's name went on the score sheet. Think about what that actually means. Brazil lost a goal under VAR intervention. Argentina gained a goal without VAR intervention. Both moments, per the CBF's formal submission, involved similar physical contact in the build-up to a finish. If that parallel holds, and it is now on the permanent official record of this tournament, then Brazil have not simply protested a bad call. They have documented a structural double standard, in writing, addressed to the president of FIFA himself. That is the real question. Not whether the Vinicius challenge was a foul, whether the same action is being judged by the same standard regardless of which nation commits it. And then it gets stranger. The CBF's complaint does not stop at VAR consistency. It reaches backward, 8 full years. César Ramos, experienced, widely respected at the highest levels of refereeing, carries a very specific weight in Brazil's institutional memory. At the 2018 World Cup in Russia, Ramos officiated Brazil's group stage match against Switzerland. That fixture ended in a draw Brazil believes they were denied. The CBF cites that game in the current letter as evidence of what they formally describe as a negative history with the official, alleging an uncalled penalty and an unpunished foul in the build-up to the Swiss equalizer. Their formal position is unambiguous. Ramos should never have been assigned to referee a Brazil match at this tournament, given that documented prior friction. And they are not asking for him to be rotated away from future games. They are demanding he be removed entirely from any and all Brazil fixtures for the remainder of this World Cup, not reconsidered. Removed. Let's make this human for a moment. That demand is without modern precedent at a major tournament. No national federation in the contemporary era has publicly and formally requested that a specific named referee be barred mid-competition from officiating their games. The institutional weight of that request, the courage, the anger, or the cold, strategic aggression it represents, depending on your perspective, will be felt and discussed inside refereeing institutions long after this tournament concludes. FIFA has issued no public response, no comment on the letter, no statement on the disallowed goal, no indication whatsoever that the appointment of Ramos is under any form of review. The silence is not neutral. The silence is loud. Here is the particular cruelty buried inside this story's irony. Brazil won anyway. The disallowed goal changed the scoreline, not the result. Vinicius Junior, undeterred, unstoppable, utterly unbowed, scored again before the final whistle. Matheus Cunha added a third to put the outcome beyond any mathematical doubt. Brazil topped Group C with authority and now travel to Houston to face Japan in the round of 32. On paper, everything looks fine. The Seleção are performing. Ancelotti has this squad functioning like a genuine, credible title contender. But the CBF is not sending a message about this match. They are sending a message about this entire tournament. We are watching, the letter implies. We are comparing. We are documenting. And if the standards applied to every other team at this World Cup are not being applied to us with equal rigor, we will make that gap visible, formally, publicly, and with evidence that cannot be dismissed. Brazil carry 5 World Cup titles into every competition they enter, 5 trophies, 7 decades of extraordinary football woven into national identity more deeply than in any other country on earth. The Seleção do not arrive demanding privilege. What they demand, what the letter argues they are entitled to demand, is equality. The same VAR threshold in Miami that applies in every other stadium at this tournament. Nothing more. Nothing less. And somewhere in FIFA headquarters tonight, that demand is sitting on a desk, unanswered, waiting. Brazil move forward to Houston. Japan await. The knockout stage of this expanded, reimagined 48-nation World Cup is beginning in earnest. But the question this letter has embedded permanently into the record of the 2026 tournament will outlast every group stage scoreline. 48 nations were invited to this World Cup under a promise of equal treatment, equal standards, equal football. If the evidence Brazil have put in writing is accurate, if the biggest names in this tournament are genuinely operating under different thresholds than everyone else, then that promise has already been broken. And the world's most successful footballing nation is making sure that fact cannot be quietly buried. Who gets to decide what counts as a foul when the name on the back of the shirt is Messi? And what happens to that decision when the name is Vinicius?